how to create a budget and stick to it. In today's episode, I'm going to be speaking about that and giving you some information to help you get through this. So in this episode, I'm going to be covering how to calculate your net income. I'm going to share a calculator that I've set up. So in the resources or description, check out a link to that. You might find it interesting. You plug in how much you're spending and it'll help you with that. We'll talk about that further on. So that's something to look forward to. Track your spending. How can we track how much we spend? How to set realistic goals. How to make a plan and adjust your spending to stay on budget. So that's going to be what we're covering today. Don't worry about getting a pen and paper to write any of this stuff down, because if you're listening to this, you will find that there's so much information. So you can go to zulftalks.com and you can go to show resources and you can download this presentation and see all the information, so you don't have to worry about any of that. So without any further ado, how do you calculate your net income? Interesting question. So if you're totally new to this, you need to make sure you know, okay, if you're getting paid, I don't know, £1,000 like every couple of weeks or whatever, £2,000, £3,000 a month. If you're getting that income coming in dollars or pounds, how much of that do you actually see? How much do you get in the net? So think about it. If you're catching a fish, what have you got in your net? That's what you've actually got. Don't count all the fish that got away. So how that means is there's going to be elements of payments that you need to make. So when you're earning a salary, you might be on like 50k salary a year, 25k a year. But how much of that do you actually get at the end of the day once all the tax has been paid and any pension contributions, or, the stuff on wage slips if you're paying for like loans or something, if you had student loans, things like that. So how much hits your bank account? And from that, it put you in a good position, because you'll know, okay, I thought I'm going to get £2,500 this month, but actually I only got £1,800 or £2,000 or something like that after all the stuff's gone out. Then you can use that as your net amount. So that will help you, because now you know that's what I've got to spend. So to calculate that, it's basically looking through your wage slip. You'll get elements of breakdowns. Let me give you an example of a wage slip. If you're listening on the podcast, I'll talk you through this. If you're watching on the version of this, because I'm on YouTube and Spotify with the video, so you should be able to see this on screen. So let me bring that wage slip example to show you what I mean. So I've gone and added in a wage slip example here. This is from read.co.uk, so I'm using that as an example. And we're going to have a look at this to explain what it actually is. So what normally happens on a wage slip, it's basically the money you've got paid. You'll have your payroll number on the top. Normally that's identifies who you are. You have the period, so you'll have things like the week it's for, the tax week. You have deductions, tax and national insurance. So you'll notice in this example, this person's earned just over £2,000 in earnings. But if you look at the number at the bottom, why do they only get £1,620? Where is the remainder of that money gone? So in each of these boxes, it actually explains it very well for you. So it can be helpful, especially if you're getting paid and you're getting a wage slip. It's like, what's all this about? I earned $2,000, but I only got $1,600 of that in my bank account. So the wage slip does a great job of helping you explain that. So you'll see here it says tax. So when you live in a country where you have to pay tax, that kind of pays for stuff. We'll do a separate episode explaining what tax is used for. As pension contribution, not everybody will have that. If you have a student loan, they take a little bit of money out there. You'll notice in this example, you're paying £200 in tax, just over. You're doing some national insurance contributions, £169. That's another type of, not tax, but national insurance helping the country, other people. Pension, you're paying £50 and £10. And then deductions are £442. So you're paying that out of your salary, and then you're netting in the bag, catching a fish, as they say, £1,600. That's a look at an example of a wage slip, and I've explained why there's a difference there. So you're paying for stuff which in this country you will need to pay for this kind of stuff. Ideally, it's kind of building you up for your future. And if you're a good worker and you're paying these contributions, think of it like you're helping everybody else who's not in a place to be able to work. That's like a layman's explanation. There's a lot more detail to that. I'll do a separate episode about what's national insurance and what's tax and all of that. So, again, Working for Yourself podcast, zulftalks.com. I've got resources so you can actually have a look at what I'm showing you. If you're listening, you can pick that up from there. So that's something to consider in terms of getting a net amount. What about track your spending? So now you've got your money, you've been paid, you've got £1,600. Let's continue with this example. So you've got £1,620 or dollars. tracking your spending. So I know this month I need to pay for mobile phone bill, TV license, car insurance, gas bill has come in, my car wheels need changing. So these are some things that I can plan for, some things I can't plan for. So those 5 things might cost me like £600. I'm left with £1,000. So tracking your spending means, do you know how much you've got going out? Do you know how much you've got coming in? If you know those 2 amounts, then you're in a better position, because a lot of times it can be difficult because you're in a situation where you're probably working from your using paycheck to paycheck and covering off all the expenses. But at some point, if you can take a step back and plan for the next month, we're hoping to kind of help you just track your spending basically. If you know you need to pay X amount, then you can look at my previous episode where we talked about finding ways to save money, savings accounts, how we talked about those different scenarios. Those will help you. But tracking your spending is important because you can tell what you know you need to pay, and then you've got a budget of how much you can use for unplanned things, because life happens, doesn't it? So keep that in mind. And with this, you want to be able to set realistic goals. So setting a realistic goal is something like saying, okay, I'm earning $2,000 a month. I want to save $200 of that. That's okay, because that's a reasonable amount that you can plan to save depending on your circumstances, because everybody is different. Look, I can sit here and say it's reasonable all day long, but everybody is slightly different. So that might be an essential bit of money for you to get maybe this month's food. In other cases, if you've got a budget and you've been working well towards your budget, you might be okay to save a couple of £100 or dollars every month. Setting realistic goals basically just means look at your personal circumstances, don't overreach, go for an amount that you won't miss, and then if you find this month that it's gone well, next month you can set a realistic goal and make it a bit higher or make it a bit lower. So we don't want to set you up to fail. We want to make sure that anything we're setting up, especially for savings and getting something for your future, we're doing it so it's nice and easy and it builds up over time. Think of you putting down a brick every month, and then before you know it, you've got a wall. So there's loads of little tips and tricks around that which I can share, but the realistic goal is make sure you're not overreaching and you're not going full head on into it. And this does lead us nicely into making a plan. So what would a plan look like? So in those examples I've given you, our rough plan has been, we got £2,000 in salary. Of that, we're only making £1,600. I'm spending some money on some things I need to pay for. I'm left with £1,000, and of that I'm going to save about $200, so I'm left with $800. So already, just talking through this process, that has become a plan. And then we're left with $800. I'm going to think to myself, okay, that $800, what else do I need? My mobile screen's broken. Can I do without fixing the screen this month? Can I save that money, or is this an essential requirement? And then that becomes part of your plan. You understand that, okay, this needs to happen. How high is it on my list of things I need to do? My plan is, okay, you know what, a couple of months with a broken screen is fine. Maybe a year with the broken screen is fine, as long as it doesn't impede me being able to use the phone. My screen isn't broken. I'm just using that as an example, just letting you know. But yeah, the plan element of it is just intentionally thinking about these things, because if you leave it unthought of, then at the moment in time you'll panic, and we don't really want that. Just as I talk about my phone, I get a notification. I normally put my phone on silent when I'm speaking with you, but it's just interesting that would to be happening today. So yeah, making a plan will be a good idea, especially to keep you on goal, and just make that intentional each month so you can keep an eye on it. So that will help you quite a lot, especially while you're doing this and looking at elements to save that. Now, adjusting your spending to stay on budget is an example of what I said there. So for example, if you're in the shop, you're in town, you see loads of amazing trainers or sneakers, and you get the urge to buy them. Can you adjust your spending to stay on budget? So instead of buying the most expensive one, can you be like, you know what, I committed to saving $200 a month. I've got $800. Should I carry on just spending the $800 on like loads of pairs of trainers, or shall I buy one pair this month and save money, and then buy another pair in like 3 months, give yourself like a bit of a treat? So just adjusting what you buy, when you buy it, how much you spend, can help you quite a lot, especially going through this process. So I'm giving you like an overview of this, and again, all of this presentation is available on the zulftalks.com Working for Yourself is the podcast. I'm basically covering it. You can click show resources, one of the buttons on my page. When you go to zulftalks.com, it's basically a landing page. So you've got links to everything. It's not really a website as such, because I want you to be able to get what you want quickly. So this is available there. To cover this in summary, what we've covered today, how to stick to a budget is a key element that you need to consider, and calculating your net income is part of that, working out how much you're actually getting paid or how much money you've got to use. Tracking your spending is important. Setting a realistic goal so you're not overreaching. Making a plan to be intentional about what you want to do will help you get through this process. The last thing you want is, if you don't have a plan, you don't really know what's happening, where do you want to be, what you're buying for, what you're planning for, and adjusting your spending so you're not spending like crazy. So I'm hoping you found this useful. This is one of the episodes. You will be able to see more in the next episode, which I'll link to, and I'll see you on that next episode. It would be really good if you can leave a review wherever you're listening to this. The show resources are available at zulftalks.com. You can also sign up to the mailing list there, which will allow you to get information to help you on your journey working for yourself.